Hello, Mountaineer fans. This is West Virginia Live on the Voice of College Football. I have Eric with me, and it's Monday. Made it through another week, Eric.
Just barely, but we're here.
Barely. Well, last week was tough to do shows. This week it's not going to be tough because I will tell you what. I have never been so, I don't know, rejuvenated by a loss. If that's the way you could say it. It's like I had a motivational, double shot of espresso, like let's go Mountaineers. With what I saw, I just don't know. Like if it didn't look like the same team.
That's a great way to put it. Rejuvenated, the best you've ever felt from a loss. That's a great way to put that.
Yeah, I mean, we texted a few times through the game, and the first it was 10-0 to start out with,
Hmm.
and I thought, here we go again. Here we go again. Rich Rod goes for 4-1, and I don't think if he didn't get blown out the week before, he was called out on it in press conference, and he said, "I'd do it again." If he didn't get blown out, Rich Rod the week before, he wouldn't have went for it 4-1. I think that bit him in the ass later on, but you know what? You gotta be a gunslinger. You gotta be a gambler. You gotta be like who played Maverick, the gambler, and he also was on uh, James Gardner. You know what I'm
James
saying?
Gardner,
You
yeah.
got you got to be like you got to just put all your cards in and go for it. So they did, and from the first time we saw Scotty Fox to
Hmm.
this week, he did better than TCU's uh, you know quarterback who's been slinging balls for years. He's a veteran, and I just got to say, golf clap. Two thumbs up, whatever. I mean, yeah, they didn't win, but it was interesting.
There's a lot to be encouraged by from this game. You said it yourself. If I would have told you that one of these quarterbacks was 28 for 41 for 300 yards, two TDs, and zero interceptions, you just said, well, of course, Hoover's playing. You would not have thought Scotty Fox.
Right. So yeah, let's just get into the stats then. If we're gonna, great segue. So TCU held, they won the battle, and if you look at it on paper, but if you look line to line, I'll read off to everyone. So TCU had 200 or 343 yards. West Virginia was just 1 yard shy of tying them with 342. Rushing yards was 41 to 96, 50-yard difference or 55-yard difference for TCU in favor of the Horned Frogs. Time of possession 25 minutes 57 seconds to 34 minutes and 3 seconds.
Hmm.
Um, but the final score was 17-23. Second half, West Virginia won that game. I would say the last 3 quarters, West Virginia won that game.
I actually have that here in my notes. It's the first time since the Pitt game that we won a half. And I'm talking about score. I'm not talking about, yardage gained, number of sacks. I'm not talking about statistics. Flat out score. It's the first time since Pitt we've won a half.
So, fourth down conversion, TCU had 2, West Virginia had 1. Now, the penalty battle, West Virginia had 60 yards of penalties, TCU had 36. Now, you have to, tell me if I'm off the mark here. If you have a team that is as low as it can get, and they look like they don't. Last week, that team, those kids didn't look like they belonged playing Division I ball. And to fast forward to this week, where you saw black jerseys in mass, just wrapping up, making tackles, in on the play, high just energy throughout, the third quarter, fourth quarter, they're still making plays. That's a testament to good coaching. You can give Rich Rod as much shit as you want. saying that, he doesn't have it, and we'll get into the money ball here later on, but I think he coached the hell out of that team this week.
There's no doubt about it. If you look at the improvement in the performance for in particular the offensive line, but strategy, there's no doubt. And Richie's really big on it's not what you call, it's what you can execute. He said that a number of times. Everybody wants to see, strategy, and they want to see where somebody pulls out a chess move during a game of checkers. I get it, but he's right, and I'm sure anybody who's ever coached any sort of sports at any level, I don't care if it's youth sports, um, if you can't, if your players can't execute what you're calling, there's no point. And this weekend,
Yep.
we saw market improvements in a number of areas. Is it okay if I dive in, just start talking about some of these things?
Let's do it. Roll the sleeves up. Get dirty. Let's hear it.
Let's do it, man. Hit me. So we've been saying for a while here, defenses are just pinning their ears back. They're coming right up on the line and they're pressuring us. And when I say pressure, they're bringing the house. And why not? We have shown we can't get the passes off, and we haven't been able to get the ball advanced beyond the line of scrimmage with our running backs. So we've been saying you got to get some short passes. You've got to get some way of quickly getting the ball beyond the line of scrimmage to a player downfield. If you can do that, that'll help. That helps your offensive line, because now the defense has to stay home. But you at least got to keep some players at home. The notion that we did that pretty well, very effectively, very quickly, very early in the game, maybe as long as a quarter into the game. But we had, and that's the tail of the tape. At the end of the day, you look at our offensive numbers. We had a great outing in our passing game, more so than I think most folks would have ever guessed. I didn't think we'd get 41 possessions, let alone 41 pass attempts. The nice thing that did for us, and I think, of course, that opened up the run, because one opens up the other.
Mm-hmm.
If you can keep defenses, off balance, and you can have a little bit of success in each one, it becomes a guessing game. And more often than not, the offense has the advantage because they know what's coming. The defense has to react. Now, something I thought was fantastic and I've been waiting for. Zone blocking is one of those things that you can get an advantage to your offensive line, even if they aren't quite as skilled and capable as the defensive line. And man, they showed it this week. This was our second highest rated offense or passing score, and the offensive line, I think, was they scored incredibly well. But rolling your quarterback out with the zone blocking made a huge difference. It bought Scotty time. Scotty, as a true freshman, it's hard to throw on the run. When you're running to one side and it looks like they're running at a normal speed, they are sprinting. These guys are so much faster than you can tell. That ball will carry in the direction that you're throwing it. And as a quarterback, you've got to be able to counter that. It's not easy to do. Scotty did great. And in particular, when he wasn't pressured, he was like 22 for 29. It was crazy how much better we were with the rollout.
Yeah, he squared his shoulders up and he was dropping dimes, lasers. I was thoroughly impressed. I mean, here we are. A week ago, I'm like, how the hell are we going to do a show and because I don't want to be a show that just beats on the offensive line and the coaching week in and week out, because that's not what I'm about. They're young men. They're phenomenal athletes. They're world class. And they played like it this week. No, yeah, they lost. And everybody's like, well, they lost and they're not. Guys, they're going to get there. And I'm going to make this statement. I was going to wait till the end of the show. West Virginia's going to upset a team. They're going to either upset Houston. They're going to either upset Texas, maybe not Texas. Well, Texas Tech could be like the Virginia Tech back in 2003, where you thought there's no way in hell they're going to win, and they win. They might upset Colorado. I really likely they'll they'll upset Colorado. Colorado looked like garbage. That won't actually be an upset if it's competitive against Houston. Talk about Houston for a second. Houston beat Arizona State.
Yeah.
Them with one loss. They're third in the Big 12. They're ranked 22. I didn't really realize that until Sunday.
We had been talking earlier in the season, and kudos to you. You've always done a great job of steering us. That the notion of sure these guys, these players are now professional athletes. They're getting paid, and a good many of them are getting paid quite a bit of money. That being said, they're still young. They're definitely trying. None of them want to collect a check and just do nothing. They know that their next season is on the line every time they get to play, because that's how they get their money, is by putting the evidence on film. So, excuse me. So the notion then, in particular, like we talked about Houston earlier this year, wasn't looking real good, and I was like, yeah, that's probably our top win, chance for a win. Do I feel that way anymore? I'm not so sure. But we did. I would have told. Well, we did say we called that. Look, TCU is a good team. They're still in they're running for a championship for the Big 12. But we thought, no, we got a shot here. And I thought we came out and we showed up. This team played extremely well. And like you said early on, see, I'm a fan of being aggressive. The notion that we went for it so early, yeah, I was with Rich. Now I think you're right. I think that did come back to bite us, but I'd rather see us go down swinging than not. Sorry, Shane. It's my turn to be all over the place tonight.
Well, it shows the coach believes in you, and the thing of it is, tie it in with the atmosphere. I mean, the atmosphere. I watched. Pitt has a winning record. I think they're 5-2, 6-2. They're doing well. You look at the stands. It looked like the zombie apocalypse. There was nobody there, not a soul. But you have a 2-5 Mountaineer team, and it's packed.
Now, see, you're stealing my thunder, because that was my closing point.
Yeah.
If we would have gone out like this was a coal rush game, so we got to emphasize that, because that in itself makes this game special. No disrespect to TCU, but whoever we were going to play this night, it was going to be special. It's homecoming. We got the coal rush uniforms. Did a fantastic job with honoring the miners of this state. I mean, Shane, it was fantastic. And I shouldn't just say this state, because West Virginia has fans all over. Quite honestly, a lot of Western Pennsylvania, your home area, a lot of West Virginia fans. So the notion of the product that we put on the field, it wasn't just the game. Like you said, it was the atmosphere. That the stadium looked to have about 50,000 people in it. Having the little wristbands with the LEDs, it was a fantastic showing for WVU as a product.
No, it looked good. It looked good on. I end up not going. I just, at the last minute, I'm just not feeling up to it. I was doing yard work and other things, and just time caught up, and it was just like, look at what time it is. I'm just not going to make it. And I enjoyed myself watching it on TV. And I then guilt set in, and then remorse. And then it's like, oh, man, I should have went there. It looks crazy. But when I look at the temperature and then I'm warm, I'm just like, maybe not. But no, guys. No, that was fantastic. And if they continue to do that, that's a great recruiting tool. I mean, it's easy to play. If you think to yourself, man, this team's 2-5, and the fans are this crave football this much that they want to sit out in 30-degree weather at night and watch the Mountaineers that are supposedly non-competitive battle, that makes it easier for Rich Rod to kind of talk these kids up and get them to church, if you know what I mean. And he did. He brought them through the door, and hats off to the offensive line, the preparation. And, no other podcast has been ranting and raving like I am. I mean, I'm that excited about this. And you know what? West Virginia might not win another game, but they're going to be competitive. And next year, there was an incident with Pat McAfee. Did you hear about that? I mean, this is old news. This happened a couple days ago. But Pat Mac supposedly, well, not supposedly, he did. He said on his show, Rich Rod gave him a call saying a donor backed out, didn't want to give the entire amount that he committed to. And, Pat Mac was put in a situation where, like, I think he felt like he had to do it. But at a certain point, there's going to be some donor fatigue, and I hope it's not happening this early, because unlike other schools, West Virginia has a limited supply of big-name donors. And once those bridges are burnt, those pools dry up, and that was what happened with the old ball coach. One of the reasons Rich Rod was brought on board was because of the relationships he had with some major donors, which made it more and more attractive for Ren Baker to kind of pull the trigger. Here we are. We have Rich Rod. Hindsight, I think it was the right move. We'll see in 2 or 3 years if we are right or wrong. But do you think West Virginia is still going to be able to be competitive, have that money, that pot of money next year to pay these guys?
Well, this is a great question. There's actually, there's a lot more here than just the surface, and it's
Right.
more of a story than just losing dollars. So the notion of for whatever reason that donor made their decision, they made it, and look, just because somebody has a lot of wealth to offer doesn't mean that they don't have things that come up too. It's just a matter of the scale of economics for them is just bigger. So it may be they had other things. There's all sorts of reasons. But
Right.
the fact that we're so lucky to have somebody like Pat, that's huge. Now I'd seen on other podcasts that somebody had done the numbers, and it was pretty impressive that if you looked at if 1 in 4 WVU alum donated something like $250, you could make up a lot of that money. And I was thinking, that's a chunk, that is, but that's not nearly as bad as I thought it would be. And so the notion that if you're talking about things in that sense, and I get it, you're looking at almost, I think, 40,000, basically a good chunk of that stadium. That's a big number, but it's in comparison to the entire alumni base and the number of 250, that's actually more manageable. So do I think we can make this up? Yeah, I think we can.
Mm-hmm.
Do I think we're going to? Yeah, I do. But the secondary question to me on this, one of the big victories we got from this weekend from losing, which is a weird thing to say, up until this point, if I had asked you, do you have a lot of guys that you think are going to see that you want to see next year?
Mm-hmm.
Do you have a lot? I think after this game, the answer is like more than last week, a lot more. And along those lines, what did you think? What do you think about this whole news?
Well, I think Pat McAfee brought it up for a reason, and I haven't really put my finger on the reason why. And I think that's the most interesting and the biggest question is why was it brought up? There's always a reason. I don't think it was for clickbait or attention, or I think he wanted to bring light to the fact that people need to step up. I'm hoping this brings awareness to the someone that instead of going out to eat 3 times that year, donate to the university, the NIL fund. Instead of doing something stupid with $250, because $250 now is not what it used to be. It's maybe 3 tanks of gas, but still, everything's expensive, and the belts are tighter, the wallets are thinner, and it is what it is. But at the end of the day, if you want a competitive program, you're going to have to pay to play. And so if you pay that $250, I think it's your ticket to bitch. If you want to sit there and complain and you haven't paid anything into the coffers, then shame on you. I don't donate a lot, but I donate enough that I feel comfortable that they should moan once in a while. And then I was a season ticket holder for 10 years. Took about 5 or 6 years off, and then I've been a season ticket holder for the past couple of years. With that, of course, I'm getting tickets. But with a donation, especially with the big donors, they feel that they can call shots, and that's not the case. It's a gift. It's just like it's like going to church. You put that money in the basket, you can't determine what the sermon's going to be next week. So just sit there, listen, catch the gospel, catch the Holy Spirit, blue and gold, Mountaineer spirit here and there, but you cannot think that you're going to actually determine. And Pat Mack knows this, and he said some of his guys that he helped get their foot in the door and pay are no longer even in the program. That's disheartening. That is a national issue, not a Mountaineer issue. That is a national epidemic with the state of college football. That needs to be fixed in the offseason. That's for another show, another conversation.
Yeah, absolutely. But you make an excellent point, and look, $250 isn't. I'm not going to just casually drop $250 for whatever reason, but $250 is definitely something that if you bleed, gold and blue, you can probably find a way to work the budget around that. Maybe not this year because we're getting kind of close. We're in the holidays. I get it, but definitely something you could probably do for next year, and I don't know, maybe this year, but that's definitely something that makes things affordable.
Take off Christmas and take off November and December, but put $25 away all the other months, and you'll have your $250 to give to the big old, blue and gold, machine.
There you go. And I'm with you. If you give, and by the way, I love the example. It doesn't give you a right. I mean, you're not making the calls. What you're doing is you're funding the program. Now, it is the kind of thing, and maybe this is what happened. Maybe this is what happened with that donor. Maybe they were like, "Well, they're not winning the first year," that is the most absurd thing. Look, if you looked at all the times new coaches were brought into a program, and you did, a comparison of the numbers, you might get as much as 5%, maybe 10%, where coaches come in and they have a winning season. I'm just talking about a winning season.
That's an anomaly. We looked at that a couple weeks ago, and you're Kurt Signetti's, and there's just a
Yeah.
handful of guys that have done it in the history of the program. And he came from James Madison, brought a lot of his players who was really successful there, had a lot of money to spend. You look at programs like Kentucky, they struggle and they have a lot more money than West Virginia, but they're putting all their money into basketball. And they can't get football funded. That was the case for a long time at Kansas. Now Kansas has flipped the switch. The money's pouring out of the spigot into the coffers of the football stadium and coach, and now they're looking a little bit better. They're still not in the top tier. They were for a little bit. They smelt it. Now they're kind of back into the middle tier of the Big 12. But as far as college football goes, it's anybody's. You have a lot of tier 1 coaching positions open. Kelly was released from LSU. Franklin was released from that team that has great ice cream. What's the name of it?
Penn State.
Penn State, yeah. Those jabronis. But a lot of teams are looking for Virginia Tech's looking for a coach. So there are some big vacancies, and Maybe Matt Campbell has been heard, name thrown around there for a couple of these positions. Urban Meyer has been spotted in State College. You know,
he's probably there for the ice cream.
Yeah, he's just there for the ice cream. But that trickles down. But what that does is opens the door for recruiting. LSU recruits, Virginia Tech recruits. Virginia Tech and West Virginia look at the same guys. So that opens up a lot of doors. We can backdoor some of these cats in and say, hey, listen, you know what? We have a coach that's going to be here for a few years. We're building something great.
Well, let me ask, I'm going to throw it now, see along these lines, something I was going to comment on. Again, I don't know that I've ever been so encouraged by a loss. That was not a bad TCU team by any stretch of the imagination. That's a good ball club right there. In particular, another coach who I think very highly of. Let's not forget, it's not been in that many years that they were just in they were in the national championship game.
Yeah.
So this all being said, I still, I'm not going to question the fourth down plays. You got to be aggressive. You got to send a message to this team that of belief, and that we're not going to go. We may lose, but we're going to go down swinging.
Yeah,
it's not going to be because we gave up. You saw so much more fight in this team early on and throughout the whole game. And if not for a questionable, controversial onside kick call, if not for an awkward fumble bounce with less than 2 minutes to go,
you read my mind exactly. You're bringing it up. That's great.
Well, I'm in your head, man, and it's a terrifying place. I got to be honest. But you saw things that you're like, man, we were right there.
But that onside kick looked like the Mountaineers got it. I thought for a second they did. Of course I'm watching it, but an 86-inch TV, you can kind of know what's going on.
My Lord, I'm going to come watch it at your house next time.
I've got a big TV. I never watched that one. I watched the one in my office mostly, but no, seriously, it just it's amazing.
Well, let me get around to my point, because I'm terrible at that tonight in particular. But so we were right there.
Yeah.
And we did all that with only 41 yards in rushing. How close, and I'm not talking down about our rushing. There were so many plays during that game, long before we were sitting there with less than 3 minutes left, that I thought, Hubbard is like half a step away from breaking one.
Right.
And like, if we get one more block held if we can hold one more block for just a half a second, that run goes. We are right there as far as the offense. Now the defense actually played well. Problem is we gave up big plays. But Shane, this all comes down to exactly what you're saying. We talked about last show, what are the two best scenarios for recruiting? One is, hey, we are like the huge program that wins year in, year out. We have everything you could ever dream of. It's and there are very few programs that have that. The next best thing is to say, we are on the cusp. We are on, we're part of a Power 4 program or a Power 4 conference. We're on TV all the time. You will get your chance to compete, and you will play a lot. And by the way, your contributions can be the ones that we're looking for to put us over the top. This was a great game, from the product we put on the field, from as far as the football team and the improvements that were made with the coaching staff. They looked great from what they had improved on. And then WVU as an institution. This was as great a scenario, short of us winning, as we could have asked for.
Yeah, Ronald, we talked about that. I had tickets, and then at the last minute I just stayed home. But I on TV because I've been to so many games, it translated. I could feel it. And I try explaining it on my Steelers show to people that have never been to college football games. It is a different animal, a better animal. It's like going and eating a huge fat steak at like a truck stop that's like 40 ounces for $19.99, and then going to like a 5-star Michelin, like a Michelin star restaurant where you get a little teeny petite steak that's the best steak you ever had. And that's college football. And that's what it is to me. I could give a shit about Homecoming King Queen. I don't like Homecoming. I love the LED lights. I think that looked great. Give me LED lights all day. Piss on the Homecoming King and Queen and tradition. LED lights, more LED lights. Slap the coal. Bring out the miners. Black. Look at this. I'm rocking the Johnny Cash. Just call it Johnny Cash. Roll coal, baby. Roll coal. Diesel trucks taking out coal miners. Wearing black. Smacking people in the head. Chin straps. Bring up the neck roll. Bring back the neck roll from Rich Rod's days back in the early 80s. Daryl Talley. Have Daryl Talley tie that shit up and wrap up the tape. That's what I'm talking about. Sorry, I got all excited there.
I was waiting for you to break out the neck roll. I thought you were going to throw it on. I was ready, man. I was going to do some huts with you.
You get hyped up when you see that and you see all the sparkles, and it's just like, oh my gosh. And you could hear the fans, and you could hear it because when you're there, you're like, oh, it's because I'm here at the game. But when you're watching it on TV and you can hear it, and it's traveling through the press box, it's traveling all over. People are watching this through, if they're in Doha, or if they're in Qatar, or if they're in, Guam, or in California, Alaska, wherever you are as a Mountaineer fan, you're watching this and you're feeling like you're there. You're smelling the pepperoni rolls. You're excited. And that's the sales pitch that you have to convey, not to the fans, but to the kids that are coming in there that might be thinking of going to a program that might be offered them maybe 10 grand more, but they're not going to get the same love, and they're not going to get the same opportunities. They're not going to be celebrities for 20 years, because if you're going to a Pitt, no one's going to remember who the hell you were in 20 years. But if you go to West Virginia and you played a year or two for the Mountaineers, you go anywhere, they're going to be like, hey, I remember you. You were the left guard for the Mountaineers from 2026 to 2027. Just the way it is. It's a fact.
The environment, Shane, you're right. I think it might have been the kickoff, or not the kickoff, the coin toss. You can hear through the mic, you could hear, let's go. You could hear the chant back and forth from the stadium. It was, again, it was a great exposure for the program. I told you my gig is to sit on the couch, and I got like 2 or 3 text threads going with friends, from my youth, and we're all talking and comparing notes. But friends who were at the game, everybody said the same thing. Whether you were at the game or you're watching it, like, look at how good the stadium is just popping. The colors look fantastic. That night atmosphere at WVU is just that much more hype. Yep. And you honestly do not get that at all stadiums. You really don't.
No, you don't get the theatrical lighting that they have. Hinesville doesn't have that yet, or Acrisure, whatever the hell you call it. They don't have that yet. Hockey stadiums, some of them have it. But I'm going to be glass half empty here. What West Virginia has to do next, they have to stop stepping on their crank every time they're on a major game night. And when they're the premier game, like, they won the Pitt game, but the week before that, they lost to Ohio. I don't know if they win the following week against Pitt if they beat Ohio, but I don't know that. But they would have been in a position to have game day there, and it would be a featured game. If, and I think if West Virginia is able to win a game here against, traveling to Houston, win against the Cougs that are ranked, maybe beat, I'm really going off on a freaking stretch here, Eric, bear with me, beat Colorado, 2 wins with Texas Tech coming back in, that's going to be a game people are going to tune into. Because West Virginia will, at that point, be a little bit dangerous. They're an afterthought right now. Mountaineers are an afterthought.
Well, I think that's pretty optimistic, but certainly the scenario you laid out absolutely would be. The thing I would say is I'm more worried about, I've seen a lot of folks talking about we're turning a corner, and maybe we are. That would be fantastic if we were. The thing I'm more focused on and was just thrilled to see is we've got stuff we can build on here, and not even just next year, which would be fantastic. That'd be great because even prior to this weekend, I wasn't sure. I was like, man, we're looking at a ton of more turnover because we got to get out. We're gonna have to make some changes. But after what I saw this weekend, no, I mean, we could build with this team, and not just next year. We could build for this year. So yeah, a win at Houston, definitely not out of the running. A win against Colorado, absolutely. That's certainly believable.
It's not
Texas,
improbable. I mean, I think
nah,
Colorado is very likely that West Virginia could pull that out. Okay.
I think that's now our best shot to win. Yeah,
Absolutely. Now, Houston is a good team, but Mountaineers with having an offense, I mean, Fox is throwing balls that are, he's opening up the playbook. He can make that long pass, which opens up everything else. Now they're not one-dimensional. If you're one-dimensional, and you said this, you have to be just fantastic at it. Now they can just be dangerous and good. You can just be good at a few things. You just don't have to be spectacular at one thing.
Well, let me ask you a question. Whose name did you hear on the offensive side besides Scotty Fox that you haven't heard from? I mean, you would have thought he was in the witness protection program.
Hubbard?
No, Hubbard's been out there. Here's a clue. He is someone who is probably going to play on Sundays on the receiving corps.
Who?
Cam Vaughn.
Oh, Vaughn. I was going to say Vaughn, and I thought, well, I've heard his name a few times. No, Vaughn was actually catching the balls. There's been times where there were balls he dropped. Now, with that performance, he keeps that up. He's going to get, drafted in the 4th round, maybe. And
he's got a chance to get drafted. Yeah, and the thing was, you're right. Well, and quite honestly, if you don't get targeted, if you can't get targeted for how long of a stretch has it been? 4 games, and it's because we haven't had time for him. Because normally his routes are longer, but we targeted him a bunch of times. I've heard as many as 18. I don't know if it's that many, but he had a great game. And I guess to my point, he's a key player. If you can get him involved, we got to get Gallagher more involved. He's another guy who can make plays. You can do a lot more with this offense, and it becomes that much more potent when you get 2 or 3 of your receivers involved, and now you can maybe crack off 1 or 2 runs. It's not going to be like the full throttle, peak of this offense, but you can be competitive now.
Absolutely. And that's just it. I'm looking forward to watching that game instead of just like watching, it's like a horror movie. It's like, oh, okay. I know someone's going to get, yeah, yep. The kid they picked up at the truck stop's getting killed. Okay. No, with that, guys, it's great. It's great that the Mountaineers are getting things moving in the upswing. Rich Rod has this program moving in the right direction. On Thursday's show, we're going to talk about Houston more. We're going to talk about who they've played, what the score has been. Also, we're going to talk about the Big 12 on Thursday. It is up in the air. I'll tell you what, Eric, I had a great time tonight. It flew by. I'll tell you, it's a great it's a great time of year, man. It's right before the holidays are rolling around. It's getting a little brisk. High school football is kind of wrapping up, and it's just starting for college basketball. Did you watch basketball?
I did.
We don't really talk.
Shout out to the basketball team. They played great.
Yeah.
Both games they looked really good. A lot of weapons there. So yeah.
I watched a little bit of the men's, and the first, probably 15 minutes, they looked a little disjointed. I think they need to play a little bit more together, but they got some ballers. They got some guys that can drain it. I think they have a great team. I think it's going to be a good year. It's going to be a fun time. Um, we'll continue to talk about the Mountaineer basketball team on occasion here. It's not really good for the algorithm, but I like to bring it up because uh, one hand washes the other as far as sports goes nowadays. You can't just be a basketball only program. Ask Kansas. You just can't be a football only program. Ask Penn State. Their basketball program has withered on the vine for years, and that's actually why they didn't get into the Big East back in the day. Right?
I can see that, and so many of our other programs are doing really well. But I think like and what's that?
Soccer.
The men and women's soccer has been doing great. The women's basketball team's been lights out for the past few years. And shout out to my good buddy John Hammond. He's got that national or that rifle team just racking up national championships. Yeah, it's great. Now, real quick, we talked about last week that it's not much fun to talk when things aren't going well.
Yeah, it's not.
Things going better this week, so of course everybody's going to be a little bit more jazzed. Let's see what we can do against Houston, because I think that's we owe Houston still.
Yeah, last year was just, I think they had like 4 losses, and West Virginia managed to lose that game. That was just a heartbreaker. I mean, West Virginia dominated the most of the game, just like it was in control. There was a throw into the end zone it looked like it was a catch, and they called it a non-catch. And then after that, you had a turnover, and it just flipped the switch, and then you had a Hail Mary at the end. It just was one of those snowballs you see just kind of rolling, and then a claymation guy running downhill getting smushed. That's what it was. But we have like another 15 minutes. We can talk about whatever you want. I mean, we can even hit on Houston a little bit. If you want to talk a little bit more about Houston, we can.
Hey, whatever you say, man. You run the ship.
Well, let's do it. So with Houston, guys, let's talk about Houston. I mean, West Virginia. I mean, let's talk about gambling. Okay, I'm not a gambling guy. I like to go to the slot machines at the Giant Eagle up where my wife gets groceries. I put $20 in, and that's about it. But the Mountaineers covered their 16-point spread against TCU. Okay, they didn't win. We just talked about that. But they got it done if you wanted to put some money down on them. Okay, but on the year so far, let me look at my notes here. They're 4-4 against the spread. Okay, and the only game they won outright was the backyard brawl, which I'm still excited about. Now, Houston, on the other hand, I think what do they have here? The 6-2 against the spread, and they've won 2 games as underdogs, and that includes last week, which I didn't think they had a chance in hell to beat Arizona State, and they were an 8-point or 7.5-point underdog there. So, why is this important, Shane? Well, I'll tell you why. Because, Rich Rod's team has been just laying eggs, and they, so far it's just been really tough to watch. We've talked about it over and over. This horse has been beat because they can't score, not so fast. This past weekend, they scored. That quarterback, that freshman Fox, had what was there? 302 yards.
Scotty, he had 301 yards.
Every time you say Scotty, it's like that Scotty doesn't know from that movie about 10 years ago. Anyways, but the Mountaineers, so I think they've only scored more than 20 points once or twice. Once.
Yeah.
So the fact that they scored that meant that
twice.
Much. Yeah, exactly. So now the defense has been pretty porous, and they have allowed 40 points multiple times. So Houston, though, they don't score very much. You know, so they've well they've allowed a few points, but they can roll some points up, and I think they have. What do they have here? Let me look some of these games here on the schedule. They had 11 points against Texas Tech. Okay, but they scored 39 points against Oklahoma State. Then they started to slow down a little bit. Houston had 24 against Arizona State. Not very. That's why I said it's not very. They don't score a lot, but they put 31 points on Arizona and allowed Arizona to score 28 points. So I think they'll allow West Virginia to kind of get some offensive momentum. I think this will come back to the defense. I think this week's game, it's not as much about how Fox performs. It's going to be more on how the defense performs. If the defense shows up and they do what they did last week, the offense doesn't have any turnovers, Mountaineers have a chance. Sorry, I went down on a rabbit hole there,
Eric. That's a worthy rabbit hole because quite honestly, something that really hurt us this past weekend was the big play. TCU, if you take away half their, that's probably a big chunk. Even if you take away 25% of their big plays, I'm not so sure if they win that game.
Yeah, and I don't know if Houston I haven't seen a lot of big plays from Houston. They kind of chip along, and
yeah.
So,
and TCU, that's what they've been doing. They've had a lot of success through the air, but they were big. That's been their thing this whole season. They've been looking for the big plays. Now they hit them against us, and that was the difference in the game. But that's a great point. Our defense played pretty solidly, but we gave up the big play, and which sounds odd, but anyway.
I'm looking up the last time WVU beat a ranked team. 2018. 2018 is the last time they beat a ranked team. So
I wish you hadn't looked it up now.
Well, it's actually more recent than I had thought it would be. So it's not too bad. But so with that, we'll go to Don Johnson and see what he has to say. If we win any more games or not, the important thing is the team needs to keep improving. Make no mistake, Rich Rod is going to bring winning back to our great state. This is the beginning. Thank you, Don Johnson.
Don, great call.
And then Ronald, who's been giving us a lot of love here on the show this evening. Never thought I'd say this, but when expectations are low, somehow it takes a lot of stress off of watching the games. That's so true. And good things happen, and it's much sweeter. Ride or die with WVU. That's great. Eric, man, I'll tell you what. I'm pretty excited that this is going to be competitive. I was down on the program a week ago. Complete 180 for me. Any thoughts before we wrap this show up?
I liked Ron's last message there. And you're right. Yeah, thanks, Ron. You have been contributing a ton tonight. When things aren't going the greatest, it's a great time to sit back and say, I'm going to put the expectations on the shelf. I'll get them back out here in a little bit, but I'm going to see what we have and take an inventory of what we can build on. And I promise you, that's what the coaches are doing. It's what they've been doing, and any good coach will. And to see what things that are going positively. You saw a lot of good things this last game, and I think that's the kind of thing that if you see that and you can start putting the pieces together, I don't want to use the word hope. It's been thrown around a lot, but you can see where things are headed in the right direction. And Ron, I completely agree with you. Dawn said the same thing. That's what I'm going to be doing this weekend.
So, Eric, do you think the hard edge is back, or they're just about ready to find it?
I think the hard edge is back, but the thing that there is supposedly a Navy SEAL. I'm not a Navy SEAL, didn't even serve, but I've heard that there's a Navy SEAL statement that it's the 40% rule. When most people think they are 100% in, they're actually only 40% in. That's really where they are. And I think that's where a lot of this team is. They are really trying, but they don't know exactly how much more they have to give. I don't know that enough of them believe at how good they can be. And the idea of an inch or two here, a second or two there makes big changes in this game. And so I think, are they bought in? Yeah. Do they know how far they can take that and how far they can push it? Not yet. No.
Yeah, I mean, I'd have to add this to close the show. Sometimes the results, okay, lag behind the effort. You got to give the effort, and the results will come. I think they're going to get to a point. I think they just saw the fruit of their effort, buying in. I think they're buying into what Rich Rod is selling. I think we're going to see some victories, maybe one, not very likely three, but you're going to see them win a game that, maybe it's Colorado, but I think they might upset Houston. Well, Eric, thanks for being a great co-host here. This was West Virginia Live on the Voice of College Football. And as always, we are going to let everybody say bye with the great state of West Virginia flag. And guys, tune in Thursday, 8 o'clock. We're going to have the West Virginia Live College Show, where you guys can put any question you have in the chat, and I'll be sure to answer it. Eric, good night.
Good night, Shane. Thanks, man.
Good night, chat. And hey, let's go Mountaineers.